Good evening, everyone. This is Anurun. I'm a student of Hansraj College, enrolled in the BSc Honours Zoology course, and this is my presentation on threats to biodiversity. Before we start understanding the threats to biodiversity, we must first get introduced with what exactly is biodiversity. Short for biological diversity, it represents the total variety and variability of life on Earth. It encompasses all living organisms, their genetic differences, and the complex communities and habitats they form. Protecting this biodiversity is absolutely essential because ecosystems function much like complex structures. If you remove one species, like pulling a block from a tower, let's say, you might not see an immediate collapse. However, the continued loss of biodiversity makes the entire system fragile and highly vulnerable to catastrophic failure. Uh, in this particular image here, you can see the sheer diversity in the reproductive organ of monocots, which happen in simple terms happens to be flowers. The sheer color and the sheer shape and the sheer morphological diversity of flowers uh, is one of the most beautiful examples of biodiversity on this planet. Now let us break diversity down into three main components. Starting with genetic diversity, this is the blueprint of life. It refers to the variation of genes within a single species, which serves as the raw material for evolution. This variation dictates how populations adapt to environmental changes and drives the anatomical and physiological shifts we observe across different taxa. Why does this even matter, you may ask? High genetic diversity acts as a crucial buffer against environmental stresses like disease, climate change, and habitat loss. Populations that possess a wide array of traits are more likely to harbor individuals resistant to specific threats, which ensures the species can survive and reproduce. We see this adaptation in action constantly, whether it is bacteria developing antibiotic resistance on an antibiotic medium or plants thriving in drought conditions. Genetic variation provides the necessary toolkit for natural selection, allowing populations to evolve over generations. And genetic diversity essentially also forms the foundation for evolution in general. The blueprint of life matters a lot when it comes to maintaining diversity and also in maintaining fitness of a particular species on this planet. Now we'll be talking about the second component, that is species diversity. This refers to the variety, abundance and distribution of different species living in a specific area. Every species plays a unique and irreplaceable role in maintaining the delicate balance of our ecosystems. Higher species diversity typically leads to greater ecosystem stability and resilience. Because these species exist in a complex interdependent network, if one species fluctuates, others can compensate, preventing a system-wide collapse. Through complex webs of predation, competition, and symbiosis, species naturally regulate one another. Interactions ranging from pollinators ensuring plant reproduction to decomposers recycling nutrients form the foundation of life-sustaining services like clean water and soil, and also health. Even a simple humble bee can control the biodiversity and the existence of many animals on this planet. Just by simply pollinating flowers, it can dictate the food chain and also make sure that every species gets its fair share of food from the food chain. The third component is ecosystem diversity. This encompasses the incredible variety of habitats, biological communities, and ecological processes within the biosphere. The vast array of environments creates unique selective pressures that ultimately shape complex animal behaviors. Furthermore, ecosystem diversity supports the continuous cycling of nutrients, water, and energy, which is essential for planetary health. All of the habitats around the globe can be divided into multiple biomes. These biomes can include rainforests, which are found primarily near the equator, or biomes found in the sub-Saharan Africa, like the deserts. Or if you go a bit south of the sub-Saharan Africa, you will find savannas. Near the poles, you can find biomes like the taiga biome and the tundra biome, and inside oceans, you can find the marine biome. All of these biomes cater to different ecosystems and different species, and therefore contributing to the overall biodiversity of the planet. Now that we have understood what biodiversity means, let us get started with the major threats to biodiversity. Currently, we are facing a crisis driven by deforestation for agriculture, the draining of wetlands, and rapid urban expansion. All of these contribute to the first major threat to biodiversity, which is habitat loss and degradation. Large continuous habitats are being fractured into smaller isolated patches by roads and infrastructure. Take the Aravalli Range as a local example. Urban sprawl there fragments the territories of wide-ranging predators. This isolates gene pools and forces wildlife into human-wildlife conflict zones. Since 1975, we have already seen an 8% loss of the Aravallis and are looking at a projected loss of 22% by the year 2027. The Aravalli Range extends from the northern tip of Delhi, from a town called Wazirabad, and extends up till the border of Rajasthan and Gujarat. This range serves as a home and a habitat to many different types of flora and fauna, and a destruction of this particular range would amount to huge amounts of biodiversity losses within India. Another massive threat is direct overexploitation. The multi-billion dollar illegal wildlife trade specifically targets certain species like tigers and pangolins for traditional medicine, trophies, or the pet trade. In our oceans, the overfishing crisis, driven by industrial overfishing and bycatch, is pushing apex predators like sharks towards extinction. This overexploitation severely impacts populations by depleting the breeding stock and skewing demographic structures, leaving these populations vulnerable to environmental shifts. As a tragic highlight, the pangolin is currently the most commonly poached species, heavily sought after for its meat and scales. This is a particular species that is found in the forests of southern India, and due to its valuable meat and also its scales, it is hunted by poachers at an extensive rate, and it is described as an endangered species. Now we must talk about another important factor which contributes to biodiversity loss, that is climate change and alien species invasion. Climate change introduces severe disruptions such as food chain timing mismatches, forcing species into a dire choice between migration and extinction. It shifts reptile sex ratios and causes ocean acidification, which are the few major examples that I've just mentioned. Additionally, invasive species pose a massive threat. One of the most famous examples comes from Lake Victoria, which is present in southern Africa. The introduction of the Nile perch is a sobering case study. Introduced to support a commercial fishery, it experienced a rapid population explosion. This single event completely transformed the local food web and resulted in the extinction of approximately 200 native species of cichlid fish. Now, an answer to a very obvious question. Why must we even save biodiversity? We rely heavily on ecosystem services. These include provisioning, regulating, and supporting processes like nutrient cycling and crop pollination. Biodiversity also ensures trophic stability. Complex food webs prevent ecosystem collapse, and losing just one keystone species can trigger a devastating trophic cascade. Finally, there is immense scientific value. Over 50% of our modern pharmaceuticals are derived directly from wild plants, animals, and microorganisms. In my concluding slide, I will tell you guys about how can we fight back against biodiversity loss. Through coordinated conservation strategies, this can be achieved. One of the coordinated conservation strategies includes in situ conservation, which focuses on protecting habitats in their natural environments via national parks and wildlife corridors. Another method can be ex situ conservation, which involves controlled breeding efforts outside of natural habitats in places like zoos, botanical gardens, and seed banks. This can be useful in protecting organisms which are severely endangered, and it is riskier for them to survive in the natural wild. Strong policy is equally critical. We must enforce international treaties like CITES to curb the legal wildlife trade. Ultimately, threats to biodiversity are anthropogenic. They are caused by us humans. Therefore, our solutions require a deep integration of research, sustainable economics, and community engagement. Together, we can protect the biodiversity on this planet and make this place a better place to live in. That is all, everyone. Thank you, and thank you for listening.